Hey guys. Okay, so just before I get into evening duties this evening, this is 7:56 p.m. on 1st of April, Wednesday, 1st of April 2026. Time zone is GMT +1. Location is Nigeria. Honestly, let's hash it out. Let's hash out the big conversation on the global front. That's why I eventually officially lost all support for my mental image of what Israel was, what I thought Israel was. So here's my own story. Up until 2023, I never even bothered to research Israel. I just, barely knew it as a country. Like, oh yeah, Israel exists somewhere in the Middle East, I suppose, or maybe even Europe. Like I thought it was like a Turkey that it borders Europe as well. So that was my whole impression of Israel up until 2023 when October 7 happened, and by that time I had already started to stop watching the likes of Ben Shapiro, but their podcast came up on my feed. I was like, all right, let me hear their perspectives and all of that. Then obviously I left those, the round of episodes from the likes of the Daily Wire, I think maybe even Piers Morgan. I watched a lot of things, and basically my conclusion was, oh yeah, Palestinians are the bad guys, Israel will wipe them out, yada, yada, yada. We've been here before. This was October 7, then obviously I carried those sentiments up until October 17, the night of October 17. And I had to scroll up me and my friend's chat to confirm the day, because there are some things that change your life that you ought not to forget, right? So my friend sends me this interview, and I won't say what interview it is because I don't want to put that video or put that video on, is it at stake of losing its upload status on all the platforms it's been on. But a high-profile interviewer guy interviews someone that is not Palestinian himself. He's, okay, I don't even want to say where he's from. You might guess where he's from. And just me mentioning of that day, you might guess the interview, but I won't say the exact interview because I'm sure other interviews on the subject happen. So this guy in the interview, basically, among many things, gives the Palestinian perspective a light, and I was like, even then I was like, well, yeah, I mean, sure, in a war you have civilian casualties and all of that, but yeah, that happens. But that video made me think. I was like, wait, why is this the first time that I'm hearing something from the Palestinian perspective? Because around that time, I was shocked. I scrolled up our chat. I was saying, like, guy, can you imagine that? I wrote something like, guy, can you imagine that people are still supporting Palestine? And him too, he wasn't like Zayo, but you're like, yeah, him too, he was shocked. So I was like, we were shocked. Like, why are people supporting Palestine? All right, so between 2023, October 7th till December, then the bulk of 2024, obviously all the it doesn't care, like calling something a war crime doesn't mean anything. There's a war crime, right? And then there are legal things that a nation can do or a state can do that are technically legal, but they are immoral, all right? So all the immoral things, that's what bothers me. So all the immoral things that Israel will do in the course of this war, in heavy quotes, would come to my feed more of. I was like, oh. I was like, oh. Then I will now learn, oh, okay, this is what a Zionist is. And I was like, oh. But then again, I didn't shrug it off as at the end of maybe 2024, right? At the ending of 2024, I was like, yeah, these Israel, they are the oppressors in this conversation. But I didn't even know the history, the full history, as at the end of 2024. So it was not coming to the end of 2025, 2025, same cycle of news, same Israel is bad, Israel is terrible, doing terrible things. So many terrible headlines of things that Israel did fine, good. We forged on. I just took it, Israel is bad, and, yes, that. It was now just earlier this year, 2026, or starting late last year, leading into this year, I was like, You know what? Let me read this thing. So I read it, I tried to read it a couple times in both 2024 and 2025 using, I'll call out the AI because whatever, this is my sort of warning for you not to engage with this AI on this type of issue. All right, so I'll call out the AI. It was ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT, okay, give me a rundown of this thing. ChatGPT gave me such a watered down. I didn't know it was watered down back then. I just took like, oh, okay, well, it's tragic, but they have a motive. That was the conclusion that I could draw. So I asked ChatGPT again, like, is it that I'm not angry enough, or this thing still seems like just a regular case of oppression? I didn't know much. So I asked ChatGPT again late last year, and then still earlier this year, ChatGPT was giving me the same, 1948, 1917 Balfour Declaration, yada, yada, yada. Although I'll admit ChatGPT did call it a genocide, right? ChatGPT, cited I think there's like a convention or something that has the authority to declare something a genocide. But the thing is, Israel, right? The Israeli government at this point has met the actionable parameters, more than one of the actionable parameters of what is considered genocide. But the thing now is they're missing the intent aspects. But the thing is, even with that intent aspect, even when they don't declare it like people during the Holocaust did, you can still infer an intent. So that's why there's still debate over the word genocide. But even if we're not using the word genocide, at least we can say mass murder, right? Mass murder. Okay, murder is a legal word. Okay, mass killing. The Israeli government has put its IDF into positions of committing crimes that can be seen as mass killing. Justified or unjustified is their business. Have they mass killed people? Yes, that has happened. So, as ChatGPT gave me this, I was like, okay, yeah. I had a bit of the understanding. My understanding was just, Israel was because of the persecution they were facing, ChatGPT framed it as persecution in Europe, and so therefore they just, migrated. Like ChatGPT watered down this thing, man. So the ChatGPT said they just migrated to where was mandatory Palestine at some point. Then, in 1948 they declared independence, and that's how they became a country. But the Arab countries waged war on them, and I'm like, why now? You understand? So they were not like, okay, but ChatGPT, this map shows that their border expanded. Why? ChatGPT was like, oh no, it's just for defense and all of that. I was like, okay, fine. I carried that story for about a month. So let me say February, right, was when I was like, you understand? So I used a different AI. I won't say the AI now. Just the same prompt, similar prompt I gave ChatGPT. This AI showed me things I was like, what? I was like, what? And it got to a point that like, no, this is a conspiracy theory. And the AI told me, it is not a conspiracy. I was like, what? I lost my senses. Because all these AIs really, they are US monitored and sanitized and everything. You're not going to see anything that will explicitly paint the US or Israel in a bad light. So if just mere documented history, right, from just the mere documented history is what gives me this perspective. Man. And I haven't even gone into all the nitty-gritty of the details and everything. Oh man, it is insane. It is insane how they became a country. And I would like, okay, fine, let me even bathe myself in propaganda, in Israeli propaganda. So I now went to Jerusalem Post, all these Israeli magazines and outlets that I could find online. Then of course I went to R Judaism and R Jewish on Reddit. The things they were saying, right? Nothing makes sense, because a lot of them had the audacity to say things like, oh, if they hate Israel so much, that means they must hate the US and Canada. I'm like, yes, are you dumb? Are you dumb? Of course, everybody hates how the US was founded. Who likes the way the US was founded? Who? Are you dumb? What kind of stupid mentality is that? Then I would, find out things about how they raise children in Israel and in some Jewish homes abroad. I was like, what the fuck? How, and I'm saying raising in terms of like the propaganda they feed children, the indoctrination. And I would also learn a lot more about, Kufi and the Christian Zionist angle and the religious angle, the religious motive to it all. And, they say it's part of the motive, but these days it's like, what? Because now, right, the fact that they are now in Lebanon just goes to show that, oh, maybe the conspiracy theories weren't reaching. So that is the root of my beef now. And the thing is, when I have like animosity towards something, I try to get facts, understand. I don't necessarily weigh in on conflict, like actual conflicts, like, okay, what's an actual conflict now? Okay, should we raise taxes or something like that? I don't really weigh in. I just, give my understanding of the two perspectives and go. But this one, right, at the foundational level, I don't think I support the creation of the nation state of Israel. The reasons I found, both from pro-Israel communities and publications, and not necessarily even anti-Israel, but just neutral platforms like the AI I used was explicitly being neutral about the thing. I don't agree. You get a nation in as late as 1948 when colonization was already getting out of fashion. Why? You are not, you claim, but you're being persecuted. I mean, it screams a lot at double standards, right? Because Namibia and so many people all over the world who are persecuted, did they get their own nations? Did they get their own nations? And it's not like, oh, they split Germany. If they split something like Germany into two, I mean, fine. Not fine, but I don't know how that would have turned out. But we wouldn't have been as baffled by, promoting a migration back to Palestine. And let me even give you a shocker. Do you know Palestine was a consideration? Not even like, oh, a done deal. Do you know? Do you know that they considered Argentina for where they would make Israel? Do you know? So it's not even like, oh, I feel like the ancestral homeland, and this is me, emphasis on feel like, right? I feel like the ancestral homeland argument came afterward when they were like, okay, yeah, we would get more followers if it's Palestine. Not necessarily that Palestine was a true desire per se, because they documented Theodore Herzl and some of the other people were considering Argentina. That is, it's not even the same continent anymore. They would have to take flights or boat rides to Argentina. In other words, this was just a supremacist project. We deserve a nation because we are we. And that is why, I don't agree with, the succession arguments in Nigeria, because they are rooted in bigotry. They're rooted in, what's this stupid thing called? Supremacy, like your tribal supremacy. My tribe is better than this other tribe. We don't deserve these people. We deserve our own country. Then when you now eventually get that country and it goes to shit, you now start trying to annex other places. Surprise, surprise. Oh, you thought you could survive on your own. You're barely surviving together. You now think succession is the answer. It also has this, in Nigeria, like abandonment mentality, like, because there's a lot of the bulk of the, oh my God, it is so hot. I hope I don't have malaria. the bulk of the terrorism has been in the north. So I don't like this abandonment mindset, okay? Like, oh, because there's terrorism in the north, so therefore we need to cut away so that it doesn't bother us. No matter how you want to frame it, people will say, hey, that's just us being realistic. And we don't. The thing will still get to you is what you don't realize. Now you will now be facing an international crisis. So I wonder why you think you're so smart. But anyway, that's why, right, I have officially become not just anti the crimes, but the anti-Israel in the way it exists. I acknowledge that I've been through multiple stages of opinions in my life, right? Like, for example, like I said, I didn't understand why, it was controversial to say all lives matter, but now I understand. I equally understand, why it is controversial to say things like from the river to the sea, but honestly, knowing the history, to me, that's even one of the least controversial statements that you can make within this regard, because the country, based on the reasons that it gave, ought not to have ever existed in the way that it did. I don't think so. That's my opinion based off of what I've read, what I've understood now. I really do not think so. I do not think so. All right? Now, there is no solution at this point to tell you how annoying this thing is. There is no solution provided at this point that both parties will be completely satisfied. And the thing is, it's crossed just Palestine now. Lebanon is facing it. Lebanon. We're also hearing Syria is facing it. The Golan Heights, quote and unquote. What the fuck? What the fuck? I would be encouraged a bit, not that I would have anyway, but I would have been encouraged a bit if I didn't even get a whiff of the religious. I was actively avoiding seeing anything like religious reasons, because what do you mean? What do you mean you are annexing land because you think it will bring the Messiah? How high do you have to be? How special do you have to be? Sometimes we tell ourselves that this religious psychosis thing is only when a Muslim bombs a place, or a Christian is going around wasting their breath preaching against the LGBTQ lifestyle or something like that. But you're seeing it on an international scale, because they have the backing of US Zionists, US Christian Zionists that think that that genuinely have the belief that this will bring up what they call Armageddon. What the actual fuck is this world? And that has been part of the reason why of late I've just been like, I'm not even interested in this world again. I'm really not just interested, because what do you mean that I lived through this, right? I understand that I as an individual, not necessarily powerless, but effectively powerless on this issue. But God, I urge you, right? Don't use ChatGPT. ChatGPT will water this thing down anyway. Use any different AI other than Grok, because So use any different AI. Ask specific questions. When they tell you there was a war, ask questions. How many people fought the war? For example, now, that first war that they say, the 5 Arab nations attacked Israel. Do you know Israel had the larger army? Do you know? That's 5 nations put together. Israel alone had the larger army. Do you know? Those were the kinds of details that ChatGPT excluded conveniently to make it look like, it's a heroine story. The ChatGPT wasn't even able to sell me that it was a heroine story. I just took it like, it wasn't as bad as what I would eventually read when I did a lookup with a different AI, read different books, watched different documentaries and all other things like that. And fact check, as I was watching the documentary, when they say a date, when they say something, I was fact checking. Sheesh. Then you go to platforms like R Jewish and R Judaism and what's the other one? And you're just seeing Zionist slop, like a violently Zionist slop. You're just like, what the fuck is wrong with these people, man? What? And you can't blame them because they live there, right? Their entire lives have been built around the fantasy of Israel, as far as I'm concerned. The fantasy of, Israel being this innocent, attacked victim nation, where it very clearly isn't. Literally, we have apartheid like laws now, explicitly now. There's a video that I want to recommend, but I don't want to recommend it because I don't want that video taken down. I might leave the link in this video's description, but then again, I don't want to recommend something that would draw eyes and then it gets taken down. Although then again, this video has hundreds of thousands of views, so I should be safe recommending this video. But that's why I'm currently at a point where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I can't even muster up any bit of support for even the existence of that country in the way it is. It's bad enough we had the US, Canada, Australia, and other settler colonialisms, but what the hell? That you would come when colonization is already a dying fashion. You would come and then what was even your motive, really? And a lot of people feel like, oh, well, what the Holocaust, Zionism started in the late 1800s. The Holocaust was within the mid 1900s, early to mid 1900s. So it was in long talks before. The Holocaust was just like the fever pitch that was like, oh, okay, fine. But that wasn't the solution. Even if that was to be a solution, it wasn't there, right? If they had given them like a cutout from Germany or something like that, or a cutout between Poland and Germany, I don't know if that would have made perfect sense, but it would have, from what I can decipher, been a lot better than what we have today. Then, of course, you now have stories of how they eventually even got to Palestine, how they would get other Jewish people from around the Middle East to go to Palestine. It's a sad story. It's an annoying, a very annoying, but also very sad story. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that all these ideas, like, guys, when you see, like, maybe you have some cousins that are like, oh, well, we're the better tribe. Like, many of you that are Nigerians or Africans will really understand this. They're like, this tribe, they behave somehow. Oh, this tribe, we don't talk to them. Nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. Even if they're older than you, nip it in the bud. Because we don't know where that same person, right, or those same ideas would grow to. Don't allow stupidity to fester casually. We say it like a joke, but tribalism in Nigeria is still very much alive. There are still today households where they're having the roundtable conversations with their children. Oh, you can't marry this girl, she's from Yoruba. You can't marry this girl, she's from Omo Igbo. Fuck. Yeah, so that's why. That said, and I'm telling you, I'm not even looking too much at what they're doing now. What they're doing now is horrible. But my motive is right from the source, the origin, that it shouldn't have been a country outright. And if you're asking me, but what of the US? What of Canada? Yes. That is not even controversial. That's a popular opinion, that the US shouldn't exist in the way that it does. No one is clapping for that. I'm not saying that, go and wipe out everybody. I'm saying that it shouldn't have. But Israel is especially egregious because the US had already even gone as far as abolishing slavery, one of the last nations to do so in that league of nations, right? Slavery in that fashion, that's chattel slavery. not the slavery that will come in the form of colonization. So, like I said, colonization was already becoming old-fashioned in a way. Like, obviously, even Nigeria was still colonized by 1948, but it was already like, this might not have been the smartest thing we could have done with our time. So they now came with their own, like, what? That's why Israel's case is especially egregious. Not that it's a lesser of evil, but the context makes it especially egregious. So that's just my 2 cents. So I would like to know, in this specific context, that's my sole reason for being anti, not even anti just the war, but anti the way the country exists today is right from its foundation story. So I would like to know maybe if there's something contrary to this that you think maybe I'm missing somewhere. I've read all those arguments. I've read all the, the more they're like, but, they have the right. Don't you think they should have the right to self-determination? It's the only jurisdiction. There should be no ethno-states, period. None. There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be. You should, as a human being, be able to live wherever you find yourself. You should be. This idea of countries is something we've practically made just to justify glorified segregation, as far as I'm concerned. What is the issue with a human being? If your country, for example, maybe you're monitoring your population, you say so, right? You say that you have a population problem, but that somebody should be given special rights, literally explicitly special rights, because they belong to a lineage that, let's not even go into that conversation, but that they belong to a lineage, they should be given special rights over another human being? No. What the hell? It's the only answer. We don't need any. We don't need any states dedicated to any religion or ethnicity. We don't. As a human being, you should be able to live anywhere. It's only when maybe the country is having resource problems or employment problems or population management problems, when I say, okay, fine, this country is not taking any more inhabitants, immigrants or something like that. In fact, right? But that you make something specific. No, what the hell? I mean, I get that the 40s was a different time. They were, they didn't have the smarts of the 2026 Gen Z, but still, man, what the hell? Especially considering the sour taste of the pungent and, potent sour stench of colonization at that time. They still went ahead, a whole country. What the fridge? Okay. So that's it. I need to get some work done. Although I won't say I'm not feeling fine, but I haven't been feeling my best. I won't lie. I guess maybe because of the news on Monday, it really maddened me. Yeah. But I just wanted to come out here and say that's my official reason, and it's something that I've been hiding for so long, but I don't believe in hiding anymore. I mean, unless it's wrong. If it's wrong, fine. I mean, I've come back from believing that saying all lives matter shouldn't be controversial to understanding why it's controversial. You understand? I've come back from that. So you can correct me, right? But correct me with not necessarily that I'm looking to pick a fight. No, I'm still reading. I'm still even the Jewish that I'm condemning now. I'm still there reading, trying to understand their perspective, because I want for it to make sense. But as it is, nah. So my issue isn't even, like I said, the issue, part of the big issue is still, the genocidal actions, but the foundation story is my big issue. So that's just it. Thank you for listening. Hello, guys. So in Nigeria, we have a de facto answer to the channel Jubilee. These ones, they call themselves Cruise, and they recently did a roundtable discussion. Not roundtable, but you know how Jubilee has surrounded, so they did it similar to that, but I guess a bit more organized. Because Jubilee surrounded is you can say many things about it, but it can get messy. So this one's a bit more organized, and so their latest episode's topic is one atheist versus 20 Christians. So you know how Nigerians, well, not Nigerians, but many people who are Nigerians get touchy over this subject. So they did it, and you know, the claims the guy came with weren't even like that enticing. Like, oh, he came with that I've seen so far. He came with what is it? He came with a polytheistic one, which was like he came with religion as a tool for deception, but that one I didn't even agree. But then he came with what was his first one that he was kind of steamrolling them a bit. I can't remember, but there was, I think the first one he was on their necks a bit. But the thing, I don't mess with debates, right? Especially all those timed debates, because people end up saying rubbish or doing nothing in the process. So got me thinking, like, one of the big topics they were talking about was the idea of morality, that it is always bad to kill, it is always bad to steal, it is always bad to cheat, all those kinds of stuff, you know. And it got me thinking about this moral framework of classifying things as moral, non-moral, immoral, or amoral that I've been sort of working with. I still don't know the name. I'm just working with that. I just know that these words exist under meta-ethics, which is the study of morality, trying to determine what morality is. Then virtue ethics is telling us what is moral. You understand? There are so many words, right? So many words to just describe sentiments, so many words in different languages to describe sentiments. So for me, right, I just try to do things that are either moral or non-moral. Then obviously, mistakenly, I do immoral things, but basically I live my life trying to avoid immoral things. So for those of us who don't know what those words mean and our fingers aren't ready to do web searches, moral means, for example, right, I'm going to just use examples to paint the pictures in your head. So moral is doing good outside the required. So I see somebody that looks hungry. They don't even necessarily need to ask me, but they look hungry. I now go to them and ask, are you hungry? They say yes. I now, if I have, give them money for food. Or in a communist society, point them to where they can get food, which is why how I think humans should relate. But that's another conversation. Immoral. I saw this hungry person and I was like, I can't walk. That is, I've added tension to their already dismayed position. So, or even if it doesn't, some people may even go as far as kicking them or saying, hey, you deserve this because you're poor or something like that. Fine. That is immoral. That is, you have gone out of your way to knowingly do something bad. So the consciousness to what you're doing is what makes it immoral. Because if you do something bad without the consciousness of knowing that something is bad, right? Again, we're saying bad, good, but something that affects a human being negatively, right? And you don't know. That's what makes it immoral. So that's the difference between immoral and amoral. Then we now have non-moral. So a practical example of amoral is a baby pooing on your leg. They don't know that that's bad. Now, non-moral is like choosing between a red and blue toothbrush. That's an example I just saw. Basically, things that morality doesn't come to question, like having sex, for example. That doesn't bring morality into question. So that is the framework that I use. But I'm curious, why the hell haven't we agreed on something after so much time as a way to define what our actions are to be seen as? After so much time on earth as human beings, post quote unquote enlightenment era, we're still here having debates on over what is good and what's not, because we've realized that the religious argument that whatever my God tells me is good is wax. Let's be real, it's wax. Not necessarily, this isn't an attack on religion, but different people's gods tell them different things. You understand? In the Bible, right, controversially, there's coded anti-feminism, there is coded homophobia, there is coded slavery, there is coded support for genocide in the Bible. Coded. Obviously, you meet with an apologist that knows how to dribble words, because that guy is just being swatted by apologists. They're like, he's trying to make points, but those apologists are just they've done their Ben Shapiro assignment. Oh my God, they really done their Ben Shapiro assignment. But yeah, okay, you say the Bible doesn't define the religion, right? Still, there's still a potent culture of anti-feminism and and homophobia in Christian society today. We recently let go of the racism, mind you. We recently just let go of the slavery aspect, mind you. We are still, maybe not in Christianity directly, but we're still in the genocidal aspect of religion. Case in point, the state of Israel. Case in point, now we're calling Christianity Christian backing of the actions of the Israeli government. That one is religious terrorism, but you won't see those ones on their statistics. It's only when people you don't even need to shout any Islamic say. You just need to have a name they can pronounce, and that is all. Islamic killing. That's it. That is it. Like, oh God, I saw a video that made me almost throw up today, guys. Do you know that there are many American pastors now that are weaponizing this genocide in Nigeria as a Christian? Like, oh my God. And they're even quoting things that didn't actually happen. Some of them, not all of them. Some of them are just making things up as they go. Like, confirm they're making things up as they go. The stories that they're citing don't exist outside their videos. So I saw one of them today and I'm like, guys, are these guys still on this crap? The situation in Nigeria, right, to touch briefly on this, you can see it like today. Now there was another killing. There's a kidnapping in Zamfara. And in Nasarawa, that people are relocating because they've observed the presence of bandits in their area. People are now relocating from their homes. So the situation in Nigeria is twofold. One, is the Christian genocide claim true or not? The thing is, the bandits, nobody even has an idea what's running through their heads, what meetings they're having. Nobody knows their agenda. That's just the truth. So to now label what we don't know as something is disingenuous. It's objectively disingenuous. So, and to even further point to the contrary, many people who identify as Muslims have died in the same circles as Christians, and uniquely Muslim areas. Mosques have been targeted, so have churches been, just within last year and this year, not to mention historically. And then some, pastors that are trying to warm seats in church these days, they are touting Inter Society is one of our kind of like NGOs. So they did some reports last year and they were like, the ratio is like 65 is to 1, 65 killings of Christians to 1 Muslim, something like that. So that's one of the statistics that they've been using to really drive this idea of Christian genocide. But the thing about Christian genocide is it that people who have been killed happen to be more Christians, or people are being killed because they are Christians. You understand? So the latter is what would be described as a Christian genocide, and the previous would just be maybe not the genocide per se, but just a genocide, but happens to be majority Christian. Now, even at that, right, we can still infer that, okay, if these people have been uniquely attacking churches, we can now infer that even though Muslims might have just been maybe on their way around churches or something like that, and they still died, that, because they're attacking churches, that this is uniquely a Christian genocide. But that is uniquely not the case. So that is the ground. That is one of the aspects that says that this thing, there haven't been unique, clear targetings of Christians. There have been attacks in many churches. There have been attacks in many Christian-dominated areas. But they've equally been attacks in many Muslim-dominated areas, and also mosques. Then, of course, atheists don't... The thing is, if you die an atheist, they'll just assume something for you. So we don't have demographic statistics of atheists or even traditionalists, which is the indigenous religion or indigenous sets of religions in Nigeria. Because contrary to popular belief, I don't know where we get this belief that everybody in Nigeria is practicing the same traditional religion. No. Even just within the Southwest, there are different factions of their traditional religions. Talk less of the whole Nigeria. No, now, African traditional religion. There are African traditional religions, so many. So that's one aspect, whether the question is true or not. But the second aspect is assuming it's true. Does this now give leeway for pastors in the US or wherever outside Nigeria, both Nigeria itself, to use this as a situation to now paint the situation as uniquely a Christian genocide? So therefore, we should, be bothered because they are Christians. And yes, it does, right? The temptation to believe no, it doesn't, stems from a conspiracy theory that is tempting to believe, but still, let's still call it a conspiracy theory until we're proven otherwise. So this temptation to believe that they are just using Nigerians for, theatrics to get people to warm seats in church stems from the conspiracy theory that the demand for Christian persecution is higher than the demand, and then the demand is also there because they need a whataboutism to counter claims, to counter the accusations of genocide in the Muslim-dominated populations within the Middle East. They need that whataboutism so that Christians can feel special, basically. But it's not a conspiracy theory. They are right to have concern. Many of these people don't even know the capital of Nigeria, but they're hearing stories that concern Christians, right? So we can't fault them for having concern over Nigerian Christians. You understand? Now, if it is that they are justifying what's going on in the likes of Gaza, but now, coming to bear because of Christians, they're coming to cry because of Christians. You are not good people here. But they don't even, people say, why did they talk about maybe they weren't compelled at the time, but even if they are uniquely talking about Christians, or better still, talking about both Christian and Muslim genocides across the world, yeah, fine, right? Let's not persecute. We can't infer, that kind of intent yet on them. So, yeah, that's just the situation. So that's the situation on the Nigerian thing. But realistically, right now, I don't think it's safe to call it uniquely a Christian genocide, right? Nigerians are being killed by people they don't know. They don't even know their MO. Because if you so much as know their MO, you can at least say, oh, is this area they will attack? We don't know their MO. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they are from. Are they even from Nigeria? Who are they paid? Are they not paid? How are they getting paid? How are they getting the guns? Man, that is the root issue. The root issue is we do not know. But back to morality, I'm surprised really we still haven't come to. Hold on, I need to go and. Yeah, so I'm surprised that after all we've been through as human society, we haven't still developed our way of determining what's moral and what's not. An official way down to the, imbibing it in our educational system. We're still relying heavily on believing that our children will always take the positive aspects of our religion and not grow up to reinterpret our religious texts wholeheartedly. Even the controversial aspects of our religious texts, we're still relying on our law to do the normative aspects of interhuman behavior policing. Our law that still says that in many countries around the world, Ghana and Senegal, they came out recently now that gay now they are increasing the sentences for just being gay. Wow. So our law is not reliable, our religions are not reliable. So what now is the framework we should use? Because we need, as humans, at least let it be that among ourselves we spread a semblance of objectivity in resolving the core question behind the human condition, or one of the core questions behind the human condition, which is what is right and what is not right. How should I treat my fellow human in this instance? How should we behave in multiple instances? And we should really work on that. We should, get to a point where we familiarize it like, hey, okay, you see this, you do this, this is this, you do this, you do this, you do. We should get to a point where it's the kind of thing every human knows, that is to transcend religion, because religion is so unpredictable. But if I were a conspiracy theorist, I would say it's even the religious people that are holding us back from that resolution. Yep. If I were a conspiracy theorist. But please, humanists, secular people, atheists, agnostics, do something, right? Start spreading. Let's pick like something actionable that we can easily teach as the basis for what is right and what's wrong, so that even laws that are oppressive both now and in the future will say, no, it does not pass this litmus test, so therefore it is this. Not that we're going to be waiting for UN to vote, because UN, they vote anything we favor them. They don't vote any based on morality. It's not just which day that America was like, it's not the green card, it was legal. How? America, Jesus. So we really need a formula. There are some things we see that we know they are bad, but we need a how. We need a methodology. We need something concrete that we can teach children, so that they will grow up knowing that even if one organ comes in the future to tell them, oh, do you know Jesus Christ? Hey, I know him, but you will not tell me that is what Jesus says is right, that is right. We can't rely on only Jesus. Jesus, for the most part, got it right, thankfully. If not, I don't know where me as a black person would have been today, but thankfully he did. But some people, their religions, right? Why we are tolerate religion is they mostly got it right, but in some core areas they got it wrong. And those core areas are some of the things oppressing us today. So we need a formula, I beg. We need a formula that we should start teaching people as yesterday, not even today. It's already too late. And that's just what I wanted to talk about. It goes back to this conversation of this what's this basketballer's name? Fornication. If it's people always say when Christians come out like this to talk about, to rag on gay people, they were like, hey, oh yeah, why did you talk about alcoholics? Why did you talk about fornicators? Why did you talk about adulterers? And it sounds like a bulk of whataboutisms, right? It's like they're not making concrete arguments against what he's saying. But truly, why not? Why does this appear to be? It isn't, mind you, but in the mainstream, because obviously this is the one that mainstream media will pick. In the mainstream, why is it that this is the only topic that it seems Christians are calling out? You understand? So, we need a way of determining what's right. We're too old for this crap. We're too old for 1+ hour debates over what we should have solved years ago at this point. Let's find a way. What I currently use, like I said, is this moral, non-moral, and it really depends on context. Like, another thing I feel is holding us back is we have this grave disdain for death. Like, a lot of us don't see death as just the next state of or the ending of life. You understand? A lot of us, maybe because when death is unexpected, like we don't necessarily stress over old people death like we do people that are young. So we'll now say untimely death. But the thing is, even in that untimely death, whatever sickness was spreading or whatever bullet was coming, right? Death is death. So I feel like what's holding us back is some of our moral frameworks, right? We're wrestling with working in death always being bad into that. But I don't know why I feel like that's what's holding back the establishment of a proper secular guide to morality. Because, for example, you say killing is always immoral, but you push back and say not always, and then it's not like you understand? So it can now feel like, it gives the way for some people to now mask. But masking, right? Masking under the hood of amorality or non-morality is still immoral. Masking is its own offense. It's just that we've not gotten to a point where we can decipher intent. Okay, I feel like that's another thing that we really need to work on as a society. Maybe, what the fuck is this door doing now? But maybe we need to get to how we can, use polygraphs to inaccurately, but still an attempt to determine when people are lying. Let's work on something that will make us see intent. I feel like once we get there, then it's smooth sailing for society, really. But of course, something like that can never work. Not when people are there voting for slavery was not the worst crime in the world. Oh God, it's easy for us to say, it will haunt them. They will regret this. They won't regret jack shit. The same way they don't regret a day of slavery. Yeah, this you want why US that country. So. Yeah, obviously I'm joking that people today don't regret that happened, right? That's hyperbole, but it really begs revisiting the question, because how can they? I mean, if it's that they were saying that something else was the gravest crime, fine, but they said no because it was legal. But yeah. So I feel like that, guys, this door needs to grow. 1 second. Yeah, so I feel like that inability to walk in killing is always bad into our respective individual moral frameworks is a big hindrance as to why we say that we have not gotten to a point where we can have an easily distributable moral framework, a secular moral framework independent of religion, because we need something and fast. We can't keep relying for religion. It is irresponsible of our species to do that. We can't rely on things that aren't open for amendment in any society. It was wrong back then, it was wrong now. So, yeah, let's really put our heads together and try to disseminate as quickly as possible, because people are dying because different people's religions are telling them different things, all right? So take, for example, here are some examples of things that, people might say they are non-moral or amoral. But I'll tell you it's immoral. Killing an ant, knowingly killing an ant is immoral, Joe. Especially when you know that ant is not going to interfere with your life. Fornication is non-moral. Lots of, secular people will say that it is moral, but what really is immorality there? Then adultery is immoral. Adultery is immoral. Fair enough, I know that adultery is legal, but it is immoral. And by adultery, I mean cheating. I don't know. I know adultery is the religious word. I know adultery and fornication are the religious words. But I'm just using those words to indicate sex under the different conditions. Like, okay, sex when you're not married is fornication. Then sex when you're married, but outside marriage is adultery. It doesn't even need to be sex, just like dating and all of that, yeah. What else? Another one good that I thought of recently, a slave master. Okay, so we want to say killing is always immoral, right? So a slave killing a slave master is what? Exactly. If in case you're wondering what the answer was, it is non-moral. It's ought to be. It's not immoral. Nah, I don't agree that it's immoral. I say, but and I'm talking from the context of a malignant slave, not because of people who say, oh, is a benevolent slave. I'm talking a malign slave. That's a slave master rather, that was vicious. You understand? Killed the parents, all of that, whipped them every day. So killing as an act of not necessarily even self-defense, but as an act of liberation for yourself is non-moral. Then as an act of liberation for others is moral. You understand? But here's now the trick. It now becomes amoral if, let's say, you killed somebody under the impression that they were about to kill other people, only for you to, let's say, for example, somebody breaks into your house wearing a ski mask. You now shoot them, thinking they were about to harm you. That one is non-moral. Well, watch how it progresses. Now, if you kill them thinking that they would have harmed others, that becomes moral. But when you now remove that mask and see, it's your brother who he was just happened to wear a ski mask and he happened to have had a spare key, that one now becomes amoral. So you can see same situation, different types of moral. But that you killed knowing is your brother with the intent to later on say, he was wearing a mask, I didn't know. That one is immoral. So you can see, like one instance. So we've touched before, and I feel like this approach I have is grossly incomplete. But I'm just putting it out there as, hey guys, what are your own starting points? Let's really build this. I know there are people who study philosophy for 4 years and come out, right? I don't blame me. I just happen to have done what was like 2 semesters of philosophy that I didn't even pay attention to. But I bet you would have touched on all of this. So you guys come out and listen. Like we shouldn't stress over, this is what Plato said, this is what I read. We shouldn't care. They've done their work. Let's clap for them. Well, let's move on. Right? We shouldn't even stress necessarily about the words. Just okay, this is that. Plato said aristocracy said that's not our conversation. I'll leave that for people who wants to do the formalities of it properly. for us as a common society, we ought not to care who Plato was. That isn't to reduce the work he did, though, but in day-to-day interaction, what would Plato have done isn't something that I should be asking myself. Okay. Yeah, that's just it, really. We need a proper moral framework, and fast. Can't really keep relying on all these archaic systems to guide our principles. So if you're hearing this and it's on a platform where you're able to comment, let me know. Type out your thoughts, because I'm genuinely curious. And I'll end this recording here. Thank you for listening.